Welcome to the Heart-Centered Hustle Podcast. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Helwig, and I am your host. This podcast has been designed to shine light on how the top mortgage loan originators and influencers in real estate, leadership, and wellness from across the nation have built systems that led them to growth and freedom through meaningful change. In each episode, we will uncover how thought leaders in these industries paved their path to live a life without limitations. As a production, health, and lifestyle coach, I believe in the importance of implementing holistic approaches and developing habits in business and personal life that support and empower success and well-being. Through the theory of bio-individuality, we recognize that everyone has different wants, needs, and desires. By uncovering the things that support individual health and happiness, we have found that when implemented with intention, ultimately lead to success. As an advocate for creating flexibility and freedom in our lives, I am excited to welcome you into this space where we will discover how harnessing the power of a positive mindset and living in true alignment with our purpose will guide us to lead with our hearts and fulfill our greatest desires. Now, let's get started. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Hustle Podcast. I am here today with my friend Dante DiBattista. Dante and I have known each other for a couple of years now. We were actually college roommates, thanks to his now wife, Sarah. So I just have loved getting to know him over the years and just continue to watch his growth and his impact continue to span to everybody that he meets. And Dante and I have went through a couple different leadership type experiences together, and we might get into that a little bit on this episode. But I have just really enjoyed continuing to get to know Dante and just continue to see everything that he's doing in his life and the impact that he's having on everyone around him. So welcome, Dante. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. So I know today we are going to talk about how to conquer the fear of failure and how all of us are put in situations throughout our entire life where we are either going to step into that and understand that there is an opportunity associated with it, or kind of retract, which I know that I've done plenty of times in my life. But I would love to just kind of hear from you to start. Where was that moment in your life where you kind of took fear by your hands and stepped into kind of the unknown to experience what you knew was actually out there for you that you could cultivate and have for yourself?
Yeah, I think my situation is a little unique because I was a failure my whole life. If you ask my parents, every teacher that I had, I was the kid that was much smarter than I acted. I knew better, but never did better. I was always getting in trouble in school. I perpetually underperformed in every aspect of life. So that's just kind of who I was. And so I think the whole fear of failure conversation, for me, I was just so conditioned to it that it never bothered me, and I think really early on, I had to learn to kind of separate myself from what people were saying about me or what my grades were saying about me. I knew it wasn't a reflection of my intelligence. I just wasn't invested. But anyway, so I guess the pivotal moment for me was when I failed out of college. So we graduated the same year, correct? 2017.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to graduate 2016. I came to college. I graduated high school 2012. And during my freshman year of college, I had a 2.3 GPA first semester freshman year. And then second semester, I had a 0.8 GPA. I completely bombed out of school. I failed every class. And then they asked my mom to come up to the school. So now I'm 19 years old. I'm supposed to be out of the house, supposed to be on my own. And my mom's still coming up to the school to talk about my grades and my behavior. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, all right, this is it. This is ridiculous. I'm supposed to have had this figured out by now. And it kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what? I came to a moment where I realized that everyone around me deserves better from me. And so I actually just completely I moved out after that. Like, I moved all my stuff out. I pretty much never went home afterwards. I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out on my own. I got no more financial assistance, anything like that. I moved into my own house. I paid for my own food, never got a meal plan again. I was like, I have to figure this out on my own, and there's no other option. I think when people realize that when you get to a point where there's no other choice, that's all you can do. And I think many of us know in the back of our mind that we have other options, and so we get comfortable. And so I think you have to kind of take that leap of faith on yourself and say there is no option, there is no plan B. This is it. And I think that was a pivotal moment for me.
Wow. Yeah. And like making that declaration for yourself and feeling comfortable getting uncomfortable. And that is, you know, just hearing you talk about that, that's an uncomfortable situation. And when you're young and you're still figuring out life and, you know, going through college and putting so much time and effort or making the choice to put so much time and effort into your studies to develop your craft and learn takes like, that's a full-time job. So to have to learn that on your own, of course, you have like the support from your family that they wanted you there and your friends. Of course, I know that you were so involved in, like your fraternity and other organizations within the Widener community, but to come to a place where you feel like you're almost at like rock bottom and then choosing to be better and do better for yourself is empowering. And, you know, I think everyone has had a situation in their life where they've had to do that, to make that conscious choice. And I remember so many times in our anthropology class where, you, me, and Sarah and our friend Paul were in that class. And that's the first time I met you. And it's funny. I don't know if you want to share anything about that experience and just kind of how, like, that's the Dante that I originally met. And the Dante that's sitting in front of me today is a completely different person. And just talking about growth and this topic alone and overcoming failure and stepping into your power is remarkable. And I commend you for that. And it can be a scary thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely want to highlight that part of the story. So I actually shared on my podcast episode of, it's called Love Thyself, and it was about that journey. And it was funny because I tell it as a story of like how Sarah and I met. So, of course, you know, Sarah's my wife. Everyone is listening. The person who sat next to Sarah, or next to Jessica in that class was Sarah, who is now my wife. But yeah, so in that class, I barely ever went, but when I did, I would argue with the professor all the time. And actually, I think that's something that has stuck with me. And I know people who might have been in that class or who might see that behavior would be like, why would a student do that? But I later, going through the whole process of like reflecting, learning, and growing, that I think is a core of who I am, being skeptical in a way that allows me to learn. I think if you engage with people who are smarter than you and in a certain subject area and you don't pepper them with questions, you're not going to get the most out of the conversation. And I feel like there's a book, Good to Great, by Jim Collins, the business book. And in the book, they talk about how the organizations that perform the best are the organizations where people can have those kinds of conversations and they have that system of accountability, and you're in an environment where everything you say can and will be questioned by the people around you, but it will be done with respect and it'll be done with the intention to better everyone in the room. And I think, I think they actually explicitly say something to the effect of they want the people that will debate their professors. They want kids coming out of college who are asking their professors questions like, where is that research coming from? Has it been replicated? These kinds of things. Like those kind of people are the ones that are going to ask the questions that need to be answered in order to move forward. So although I did some things that I was not proud of at the time, there are some things that I think are still to the core of who I am and things that I carry with me. So I think that's really important to highlight too. Like people who hit rock bottom per se or making mistakes and failing, like that's not a reflection of who you are. You know, that's sure, like you're not getting the results you want, whatever, but at the same time, you're behaving in a way that, and some of the things are authentic to who you are, and those things shouldn't change. Just because you're making a mistake, you're not getting the results you want. There are certain things about you that are authentically who you are, and it's important to differentiate between who I am and what's producing these results. And so many times we equate who we are with our results, and that's not true.
100%. I love that. I love that. And expanding your mind in that way to continue to learn and just have a better understanding. And, you know, whether that be for our own internal growth or for everything that's kind of going on around us, there's just so much to learn and to ask those questions. And you said you could not get as much out of a conversation if you're having with someone, but I feel like that person might not also get as much out of a conversation if you're not going there with them and asking those questions, or you're in an organization and you're scared to challenge the status quo or everything else that everyone is kind of saying to, you know, rock the boat in a way that could just benefit so many people if you have the courage to put out, you know, whatever your idea is, to have that conversation. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, not a problem. And I think one other thing I want to highlight too is now that I'm in the space where I've been a teacher, I'm a facilitator, I travel and do a lot of public speaking. And I realized that the most value is the Q&A session. Like if you go in and you just talk for an hour, you came in prepared, but you don't know every person in that room. If I'm speaking to a room of thousands of people or hundreds of people, even a small room of like 75 people, if I'm speaking in front of 75 people, chances are I can't say something that's going to resonate with all 75 in the same way. So the only way that I could hit every single person is to say things that I know provide in general the most value, but then give them space to talk. And the other thing I realized is, you know, professors, teachers, again, I was a teacher. You know, we come in and we have our standards set. We know what you're performing at, you know, based on previous assessments and things like that. But at the end of the day, the most value you're going to get out of it is our time. You know, that's the most valuable resource you have. Like those connections with professors, that's the most valuable connection. I realized a long time ago that relationships are the most powerful force multiplier in business and in life. And that's how you build relationships with people. If someone just comes in, talks to you, and you just let them leave, you missed a huge opportunity. And they said the same thing to you that they said to everyone else and every other person they've ever presented to. So you got the same amount of value. But if you ask a question they've never been asked before, you walk away with a little gem that no one else who's ever talked to that person had. So the ability to ask those kind of questions is how you pull unique amount of value from each person that you interact with. And I started to learn to treat people like years and years of wisdom. Like, you don't have to tell me how old you are. I think you're about 27. We're just going to guess. If you're about 27 years old, you have about 27 years of experiences that I don't have. And even if we went through the same thing, we perceived it different anyway. So you're like 27 years of wisdom walking around, and it's my job to find out what you know that I don't, and to treat you that way. And so that's how I treat everyone. You know, I always ask questions. I'm always curious. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me build a lot of connections and get into rooms that I otherwise would not be invited into.
Absolutely. Wow, Dante, that's so powerful. So in terms of you teaching, facilitating, anything, things that you've observed with your students or with anyone that walks into a room that you're speaking with, can you share with us an example if failure has come up in conversation, an experience that someone has shared with you that they've been able to break through to get to the other side, whether you're doing any type of coaching to kind of get them through that, or you know, just what that looked like for them and how they've been able to change their life because of it.
Yeah, so one common theme, this is not like one particular story, but it's a story that's repeated over and over and over again, is that people tend to have fears that align with like insecurities that they had growing up. And so a lot of times it's like generational things. For example, I know a lot of people who struggle with parents with alcoholism or addiction or some type of, you know, I hate to use this phrase, but like mental illness in the home and things like that. and just in general unhealthy behaviors. And so their fear is that they're going to repeat some of these behaviors, that they're going to end up being their father, their mother, or whatever it might be. So a lot of times our fears are a reflection of things we experienced growing up. And one thing that I like to teach leaders is that you have to heal before you can lead. Just like they say, if you don't heal, you'll bleed on someone who didn't cut you, type of thing. And so it's really important that people, whatever your fears are, they come from somewhere. And it's important that you sit down and reflect on that. And so what I started doing, and this is what I encourage other people to do when I coach, I have a journaling practice. I try to journal every day. Sometimes I don't do it, I'll be honest, but every single day I try to journal. And one of the things that I do is I have these phases that I call I kind of come in waves. Like sometimes I'm like the most motivated person ever, and sometimes I struggle to get out of bed. And the days when I'm struggling to get out of bed, I kind of sit there and say, okay, like what's going on? And it might be because I had a project at work that didn't go the way I wanted to, or something like that. And so I sit down and I say, okay, where is this coming from? Why is this bothering me so much? And then I have what's called the dark room, and I reflect on like insecurities that I hear, or like things that are repeated to me. And what I started to realize was when I make mistakes, my brain starts repeating things to me that other people said to me in the past. So for example, I'm not the most organized person in the world, although I've definitely outgrown that. But me being unorganized is always like an insecurity. So whenever I made a mistake, I'm like, oh, see, this is because you're unorganized. You're this, you're that, you're that. I made a mistake, and now I'm like attributing to all these negative things about who I am. And then I started journaling, and I realized like these aren't even true. These are something that one person said to me in the past, or two people said to me in the past, that I chose to internalize as a part of who I am. And now anytime something happens that slightly reaffirms an insecurity of mine, I start going to this like dark place, and I start thinking negatively about myself. So
identifying with it.
Yeah, exactly. You internalize it. You make it a part of your personality instead of a one-off situation. So what I encourage people to do is I tell them to go through this practice. Whenever you're feeling remotely negative about yourself, what are you telling yourself? What are you hearing, and whose voices are they? And sometimes people will be like, oh, my dad said this to me when I was a kid. And it's like, okay. And they immediately, kind of vilify the person. And I'm like, wait a minute, your dad said one thing bad to you as a kid. You chose to repeat that to yourself hundreds of times over your life. That's like someone walking up to you, stabbing you, walking away, and you saying thanks and stabbing yourself over and over again with the same knife and then blaming them. Like, you chose to do that. And at some point we need to own and accept responsibility for these things that we tell ourselves and how they manifest into our personality. And so going back to the journaling practice, I identify insecurities, and then I write affirmations that counter those insecurities. So I talk about how organized I am, and I give myself all these examples of all the times that I'm organized, all the things that are really organized in my life and in order. And so you start learning and conditioning yourself to find evidence that reaffirms things that you want to become a part of who you are. So you're conditioning your brain to find evidence and use confirmation bias to develop new personality traits, essentially.
That's amazing. You literally have to rewire your brain, because we've all been, for our entire lives, like since, we have these experiences as children growing up, continuing to tell ourselves like this story about this is who I am because of what has happened to us. And I think it was Tony Robbins. I've heard him say this, and I think we talked about this yesterday, maybe when we spoke, but it's like the world isn't happening to us. Everything that happens for us. And it's being able to flip the script a little bit and just also take responsibility for who we are and how we're showing up. And if you were to think about like what could be possible for each of us in like tackling this fear of failure to just create the life that we want, because it always holds us back. Like, we're the only people standing in our own way. It's us against us. And to just create a better situation for ourselves and for our world and our communities and our friends and family that are around us, like what do you think is possible for individuals and, you know, collectively as a society if we move, past failure and just understand that, you know, in order to get to where we want to be, that failure is a part of that.
Yeah, I think this is like so cliche, but I truly think like anything's really possible. I think if you give it enough time, anything is possible. The question is, you know, I'll think of it this way. A lot of people, like the visionaries we look up to in history, are people who had a vision that they knew wouldn't come true during their lifetime. But they were so compelling in the way they shared their vision and the way they lived their life that people to this day still repeat things they say. Like Martin Luther King, of course, is a prime example. You know, his dream is not yet fulfilled. Like we still have work to do. Yet,
I agree.
Everyone repeats what he says. And so it becomes this thing where it's not about what you can accomplish as an individual. It's about what you can share with the world and other people, and trust that they will move in your shadow and will walk in a way that resembles the vision that you shared. And so going back to what's possible for us as individuals, I think when you step away from the fear of failure, you kind of get to a point where you have more creative freedom as to what you want, the vision you want to share. And once you realize that it's not your responsibility to make it all come true, again, it's liberating. You don't have to, it's not all up to you to make all of this happen. All you really have to do is to set the example and trust that if your example is as strong as you want it to be, other people will follow in your footsteps and make it come true even after you're gone. And I think that's the importance of just taking that weight off of you and saying, you know what, like I'm not afraid to make mistakes or fail. And you know what, even if at the end of the day we pass and we didn't set that example, if we shared the vision and our kids share that vision and they saw us make all those mistakes, then chances are they won't make those same mistakes and they'll get a little closer, you know, and then our grandkids will get a little closer and so on and so forth. As long as we have a future, anything's possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, you know, in Oskin Leadership Institute, when we had to create a statement, a leadership statement, what was yours, Dante? I'm curious. I know this is kind of random, but it just popped in my head. And
you're gonna laugh at how perfect it is. It is perceive no limits. That was literally my my leadership philosophy, and I still believe in it. That's how I approach everything I do. There's no limit to what we can accomplish, and I share that with teams all over the world. Like there are no limitations to what we can accomplish. Now there are obstacles we have to overcome. Absolutely. There are challenges. Yeah. There are finite resources in terms of time, energy, money. But at the same time, if we do what we need to do and we set that example and it's compelling enough that people will follow us, it's not up to our timeline. It's okay if I pass and my job wasn't done. If my job was worth doing, someone else will do it for me. And my job is to write the book as to what I was doing and metaphorically speaking, to write the book about what I was doing, how I was doing it, what I learned, the mistakes I made, and trust that someone else is going to pick up where I left off and do it better. And that's why I think it's so important that people develop the mindset that your job is to be not just the best version of you, but to challenge the people that come after you to be better than you. And so that's what I personally want to do. And if we keep doing that, then what is the limit besides, you know, global warming and things like that? As long as there's an earth and a future, anything's possible.
Absolutely. Wow. That was perfect. And just so relevant. And I think in terms of talking to someone that doesn't have the desire or the courage or the vision to see beyond their own limitations and the obstacles that you were talking about before, can you just talk a little bit about like the importance of risk taking and kind of getting beyond like anything that's going on in our head or the opinions of others that are kind of coming at us that we're afraid of, But how does taking risks and getting vulnerable and putting yourself out there to continue to keep moving forward, like how do you talk to someone that doesn't have that the desire to go there yet?
Yeah, so I think a prime example, my brother knows he's an example. I have an older brother. His name's Anthony, and Anthony and I are two very different people. He is very conservative in terms of how he approaches like his life. He's like, you know what? I want to be comfortable. I want to be steady. I want to have security. This is what I want, and I have it. And honestly, for those people, I would never try and talk them out of it. Because and they're getting what they want, and that's awesome. That's beautiful. Like if they can live a happy life, work a job that they at least somewhat enjoy doing, they become very good at, it provides their family security. They can go home, they can go to their kids' games, all of those things, and they want to be an involved parent, and it allows them to do that. Then I would never even try and talk them into risk taking. But for the people who are questioning, they're in a place they don't want to be, but they are also unwilling to do what it takes to do what needs to be done to get to where they want to be. To that person, when it comes to the value of risk taking, I would tell them this. It's so funny you asked. I don't know if you listened to my podcast, but I just put out a podcast episode about taking the leap of faith. And there are three truths that I've come to accept that make risk taking very easy. And the first truth for me is that I trust that if I take this leap of faith, this proverbial leap of faith, if I jump off the cliff, I trust myself to build wings on the way down. Even if I don't have a game plan figured out, I trust myself that I will build wings on the way down. I'll figure it out. And then the second truth is, even if I fail, I try to figure out how to build wings on the way down. I hit this rock bottom we talk about. I trust that the version of me at the bottom will be a stronger and smarter and better version, right? I'll have to recover. I'll have to heal. I'll have to get up, dust myself off, but I'll have at least a prototype. I'll have figured out what worked, what didn't, and I'll be a stronger, better, wiser version of me. So then I probably have to take some time to heal, overcome it. There's little shots of the ego. I failed, whatever. Then the third truth is that I'd rather be the version of me that was crippled by a mistake than the version of me cowering at the edge of the cliff, wondering what would happen if I jumped. And there are a lot of people who are out there who would, like my brother, for example, would get to that cliff, like, nah, I'm happy here, and turn around. And that person, I would never try to push them off the cliff, right? Because, you know what I mean? They're happy where they are. There's no reason, and good for them. I'm really happy for anyone who has found that place in their life, truly. But the thing that scares me is there are a lot of people out there who are at the edge of this cliff that want to take a risk, and they're paralyzed by fear. They're not happy where they are, but they're too scared to make the leap. And for those people, those are the kind of people that you have to explain to them that you are one day going to look back and realize you're in the same exact place. And the whole time you've just been too scared to jump. And you will, and that is one of those things that, you know, when you talk to like older people, I don't know if you've ever done this. I encourage everyone to do it. Go and spend time volunteering at a nursing home. Every single person should. If you don't have a grandparent who's there, go and spend time volunteering at a nursing home and talk to the people about the happiest moments of their life, what they wish they did more. I don't like the word regrets, but if you can go back and do more of something, not change anything, but just do more of it, what would their answer be? Most often it would be, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I was home more often and things like that. And the other people, it'll be, I wish I took that risk. I'm here anyway. You know, we're all going to, either something tragic is going to happen and we're going to, you know, pass too early, or we're going to slowly age and get to that point where wheelchair bound or whatever, thinking about all the risks we didn't take. And I just want to be that person that's sitting in that chair that has the craziest stories, you know, and I want to be able to say that I took every risk, I took every chance, and this is where I ended up. Could I have done things better? Sure. Here are the list of things I could have done better. Now it's your turn to go do it. And, you know, I want to be able to share that story. And I think that is why I tell everyone to take risks and be comfortable with it. And the other thing about risk taking, fear of failure, all of that, I realized, like you mentioned earlier, it's you versus you. I grew up playing sports. I know a lot of people grew up like in sports.
Yep.
And what I realized is sports taught us that we're all playing on the same game clock, the same scoreboard, and the same rules. And the fact is that's not true in real life. You and I are in two very different stages in our life. The scoreboard, there's no score, Jessica versus Dante scoreboard,
Totally.
right? No one's keeping score.
Totally.
So for me, I've never lost. I'm undefeated. I don't care what stories you bring up about my past. That's not an L for me because I chose to say the game's not over until I win. It's a famous Les Brown quote, but the game's not over until I win. I'm undefeated. I've made mistakes. I've fallen short, but whatever game that was only the first quarter or second quarter. That game wasn't over until I won. And so the end of the day is that then the thing everyone needs to understand at the end of the day is there's no scoreboard. You're not being compared to anyone else. There is no game clock. You're still alive. You're still waking up. The game's not over. And, don't sulk or, beat yourself up over little minor mistakes here and there. It's not a loss. They might be up for a moment, but, game's not over.
The game, and it's never over.
Right.
It never is. And that was so profound, Dante. And I'm going to have to go back to write down the three truths. Is that what you called them?
I call them the three truths for me because, like I said, there's really three things that can happen. You could jump and build wings, great. Or you could jump, try and build wings, fail, hit the ground, and then you get back up and you're, again, better, wiser, smarter version of yourself. And then the third option is, you hit the ground and you may never recover. But I still would rather be that version of me, the one that never recovered, the one that could tell the story, the one that knew the outcome, than the person that was just sitting there too afraid to take the risk. So those are my three truths that I share with people. And if that resonates with you,
it does.
Then you need to take the risk. If you're the kind of person that's like, no, that's not true for me at all, don't. And I'd rather tell people what they need to hear to make the decision than try to make the decision for them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because then you're making it about you. You're not making it about that person, even though the intention really is probably to try to help them, but it's their life and you're living yours. And, I just think that's so wise and it's inspiring me, unbelievably. And I'm sure we probably already kind of touched on this, Dante, but in terms of a lesson that just stands out for you in terms of this whole fear of failure topic, what has been, you think, the most profound lesson that you've transferred into your life, and how has that made a difference for you?
Yeah, I think, so I definitely think the scoreboard aspect, like, again, it's not a loss. You're not competing against anyone. It's you versus you. I think that's a big one. The three truths about failure. One story that I love to share about kind of my journey and this whole failure aspect, or even I'll switch it up a little bit. I mentioned earlier that relationships are like the ultimate force multiplier in life and business. I'll tell the story of how I met Dr. Schwartz, and it's one of my favorite stories ever, and it completely changed my life. So one day I'm walking through campus. I think I left the university center. I don't know if it was dinner or a meeting or what it was, but I'm walking through campus. And for those who have not been to Washington University, there's a bunch of little pathways that all kind of connect behind this building called Old Main. And so I walk through one of those pathways, and now I'm at this intersection where like four paths cross each other. And I'm about to turn right to go home. But on my left is this place called the Oskin Leadership Institute. And I've heard all these stories about this man named Dr. Schwartz, who I had not met prior. I just heard stories about who this man was. And I wanted to meet him, but I didn't really reach out to him or anything like that. But anyway, I'm at this intersection, and I stop, and I'm about to turn right to leave, but something compelled me to look left. I look left, and Dr. Schwartz is leaving the Oskin Leadership Institute. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stand here at this intersection and wait for him. So he comes. He's walking to his car, which is parked on the other side of Old Main. And I said, hey, Dr. Schwartz, you don't know me, but my name's Dante. I've heard great things about you. I'd love to talk to you. Where are you headed? He's like, oh, I'm headed to my car. So I was like, let me walk you. So I walked into his car. We had a very short you know the walk, right? It's not a very long walk from Oscar Amusement to that parking lot next to Old Main. Very short walk, brief conversation. Asked him what he had planned for the rest of the day, this and that. Again, small talk. Opened the door for him, closed it, said, you have a great day. And then I go home. The next day I get an email. And it's from him. He's like, hey, I'd like to meet and talk with you. And at the time, I was still the kid who every time I got an email from a teacher, professor, staff member, administrator, I immediately went to, oh, can I curse on here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh shit, I'm in trouble, right? Like immediately, like I wanted to make sure I didn't disrespect your podcast, your platform. But I had a moment where I was like, I'm in trouble, right? And so that's immediately when I didn't even remember the conversation from yesterday, right? My mind immediately goes to, oh, I'm in trouble. So I go and meet him at his office, and he's like, hey, this is going to sound crazy, but yesterday when I met you, I was leaving my office, and a student just called me and dropped out of this leadership competition. And I was thinking about who am I going to invite to fill that student's shoes, and there you were, just waiting for me. He's like, I don't know what that means or why. He's like, but I had a great feeling when I talked to you. And then, you know, I know you're in this fraternity on campus. I reached out to one of your brothers that I know, and they spoke very highly of you. And I would love to have you be a part of this team. Wow. And so the message in that story is that, oh, and by the way, I'll continue the story in a moment because it gets so much better. But so the message in that story really is that, you know, there's so many people that you've not met that can open the door to wherever you want to go. And it's not about just reaching out to them and saying, hey, open this door for me. You know, it's really about just going out of your way, being kind to every person, like introducing yourself to as many people as possible, and just being an open, genuine, kind person. And again, you'll never know what opportunities come your way. But if I just turned right, minded my own business, and went home, nothing would have ever happened. Mm-hmm. So to continue the story just a little bit, Dr. Schwartz became like a mentor of mine. You know, I went to the leadership competition, all that great stuff. I discovered a lot of things about myself through that experience, had a lot of classes with him. But one day, senior year, at this point, Sarah and I had already been dating. I lived in your house. And so I'm in his class, and I show up a little early to talk to him. And he's asking other students, what are you doing for spring break? And Sarah and I have been saving up money to go to Greece for spring break. For over a year, we decided we're going to Greece for spring break. We both worked multiple jobs, saved up money, and we're like, we're going to Greece. And so I told him that, and he was like, oh, you know what's weird? Widener has a partnership with a school in Greece called the American Community Schools. And their president is coming to visit Widener. Would you like to go out to dinner with us? I was like, yeah, why not? So then Sarah and I go out to dinner with Dr. Schwartz and like someone on the staff from this school. And then we're talking to them. They're like, oh, well, we have some kids who are interested in coming to Widener. Like, while you're in Greece, would you want to come talk to these kids? Wow. And we were like, sure. Yeah, why not? So then we go and we talk to the students and we learn about the school. And it turns out the American Community Schools, if you have a teaching license in the United States and you want to go teach there, you can live there. They provide housing for 3 years. It's tax-free, everything like that. And you pretty much get to go live in Greece for 3 years, room and board covered. And I was like, that sounds awesome. So that's how we started looking into teaching. And that's how we found Teacher America, that sent us to South Carolina. And like all these other things happened in my life. And so like this whole cascade of events that completely changed the trajectory of who I am and where I went all happened because I stopped and waited for Dr. Schwartz. So for everyone listening to this story, just consider the fact that if you find the right people, there are people around you every day. If you're sitting at Starbucks, the person in front of you who ordered coffee and is waiting at the same time as you, there's probably something on their mind that you can help them with. There's probably a problem in their life that you can solve. The person behind you at Starbucks, the person who you accidentally bump into, the person, and I can go on, all these strangers that you cross in your life, like they all have something on their mind. And you can't help everyone, but there is one person who's having a problem that you're uniquely positioned to fit. And your job is to find every single one of those people and to help as many people as possible. And what's going to happen, and this is like a networking tip, the best networking tool you can have is being able to provide value on behalf of other people. And here's what I mean. If you know me as a person and you know that I can provide help to someone else, and someone says, oh, I'm having this problem, you can be like, oh, I know the perfect person to solve that. I'm going to introduce you to Dante. Now that you introduce them to me, I go and solve their problem. They come up to you saying, Jess, thank you so much for introducing me to Dante. He changed my life in this incredible way. And all you had to do is make an introduction. And now you provided value through me. Right. So you help this person solve their problem just by knowing the right person. So this is why I say relationships are so powerful. And I think so many people are focused on personal development, and I'm a big advocate of personal development. But I think so many people fail to see that personal development occurs when you have the right people around you, and when you're willing to just go and introduce yourself to people, get in circles where you're, with all due respect, the dumbest person in the room. I enjoy being the dumbest person in the room. And that's one of the things about me that I think has really helped me along the way, and that insatiable curiosity, just always asking questions. Be willing to be the dumbest person in the room. Find rooms where you are the dumbest and ask a million questions. And then, people always say, I don't know what I don't know, but other people do. So that's why you have to rely on other people to be there to support you.
Wow, Dante, that was incredible. And it's about just continuing to expand your network and the ripple effect that happens because of it, and the lives that you can touch because of it. It just continues to grow. And that's so exciting. And I have enjoyed this conversation with you so much. And I know that there's a bunch of things that we haven't gotten to touch on yet. So that just means you might have to come back and we will continue with our conversation.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Awesome. Well, I always do this for everyone at the end of the episode. There's a couple rapid fire questions that I have. How do you recharge?
Sleep. No, I'm joking. Sleeping and reading. Reading is my other thing. I love to read.
Love it. Love it. And what is your favorite color, and what does that say about you?
That's been like an identity crisis for me lately. Growing up, blue was always my favorite color, but then I was like, is it though? You know what I mean? Like, did I just say blue because I was a boy and growing up everything was blue? But I think I'm gonna stick with blue. And I just think there's so many variations of the color blue that, and it's just such a relaxing color. I don't know. I like blue. And I'm wearing a shirt with a lot of blue patterns.
Yeah, you are. I was just noticing that. That's awesome. So Dante, where can everyone find you if they want to get in touch with you and reach out? I know that you have your own podcast. Would love to have you share that, and any social media channels that people could connect with you on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope you spell my name for everyone in the notes.
I will.
But if you just search my name, it's pretty unique. I come up everywhere. Luckily enough, there's only one Dante DiBattista. It appears, at least in the United States. It appears that I'm one of very, very few. But yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn specifically, Dante DiBattista. And then you'll see at the end of my name, it's kind of pompous, I guess, but it helps people see my credentials. I have a master's of science in organizational leadership, and I have my SHRM CP. So if you look up Dante DiBattista and then you see someone with MSOL, SHRM CP at the end of their name, that's me. On LinkedIn, on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything. It's just at Dante DiBattista. Again, it's lucky that I'm one of very few. You can also reach me at my Gmail, DanteDiBattista@gmail. You can find my website, DanteDiBattista.com. The Pursuit of Self-Actualization is my podcast. Appreciate if you would subscribe. I tell all my listeners this, so I'm going to tell your listeners the same. It's not cheating if you come back to the podcast, so make sure you come back to Heart-Centered Hustle. There's going to be a lot more great episodes. But also when, if there's a little lull time and you need some more podcasts, take a peek at mine, The Pursuit of Self-Actualization.
Yes. Thank you. It's amazing and worth the listen. So thank you, Dante. This has been an amazing conversation, and I can't wait to have you back.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm happy to come back whenever. And best of luck to you. I'm really excited to see this journey that you're on. So congratulations.
Thank you, Dante. I'll talk to you later. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Heart-Centered Hustle podcast. As always, I've been your host, Jessica Hellwig. Don't forget to visit us on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or Spotify, and check out my YouTube page. If you're a real estate agent or a loan officer and are looking for a change of pace or looking to grow your business, reach out to me at jhellwig@annie-mac.com. That is JHELWIG WIG at Annie, ANNIE-MAC.com, or shoot me a text at 610-301-9706. And you can also find my contact info in the show notes below. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.